It was around 2010 that a mysterious new product started to pop up everywhere. The Power Balance Bracelet. Everyone from top-tier athletes like Ronaldo, Kobe, and Shaq to A-list celebrities like Leo, Chloe, and Robert, and millions more were seen wearing this piece of rubber. The reason being, this piece of rubber supposedly performed magic on your body, enhancing your core strength, balance, flexibility, and more. Keyword: supposedly. It turns out that all of these health claims were bald-faced lies, debunked by numerous scientific institutions. Yet, Power Balance made millions of dollars from these claims, scamming professional athletes, actors, and millions of people while doing so. So, how did all of this go down? And more importantly, who created these bracelets in the first place? The year was 2006, and a young man named Troy Rottermel had big dreams for the future. He envisioned himself running an ultra-successful company, staying as far away as possible from the 9-to-5 cubicle life. But what would his company sell? Well, the Rottermel family were big purveyors of ancient Chinese medicine and fully bought into the idea of using crystals and frequencies for healing. Troy, who built computers for a living, fully believed that he could sell this medicine to the world by programming these frequencies emitted by these Chinese crystals into affordable, wearable bracelets. And yes, that does sound absolutely ridiculous, but it gets better. After hours and hours of research and testing, Troy discovered a special material that could hold these frequencies, and more importantly, deliver the healing powers of these frequencies to the body when worn. The film on party balloons. He embedded these frequencies into this film, then infused the film into these things called mylar holographic discs, which he then took and fastened to a wristband so the body's energy field would capture the frequencies, thus creating the first Power Balance bracelet. What the fuck? With full confidence in his new invention, Troy recruited his brother Josh to help start his new company, Power Balance LLC. The duo quit their jobs and sunk their savings into their new startup in September of 2006. Their first year in business, as you would probably expect, was god-awful. They were quickly going broke from failing to sell people on their bracelets' magic healing powers at a number of local trade fairs. To stay afloat, Troy collected recyclable bottles and cans for pennies, while Josh, who was a Yale graduate, delivered luggage and tutored Spanish to get by. The duo continued this lifestyle for 2 years, trying to get literally anyone to buy Power Balance bracelets, but they couldn't do it. Everything seemed hopeless for them, and the cube farm lifestyle was slowly but surely becoming inevitable. But out of nowhere, they had a stroke of genius. Instead of telling potential customers what Power Balance bracelets could do for them, Troy and Josh started showing them. The duo launched a genius marketing strategy, simply called the Power Balance Test, where they would grab random strangers off the street, give them a bracelet, and test their balance with and without it on. Improving balance was one of the many health claims Troy and Josh made about their bracelets. But was it actually true? Well, miraculously, in all of their commercials, every single person had better balance with the bracelet on. Yes, they could have, and probably, cherry-picked footage of only winning tests. But regardless, these commercials did the trick in convincing viewers that their bracelets had magical athletic powers. Thousands of people who saw these commercials were amazed at the difference in athletic ability simply by wearing a bracelet. But it wasn't just ordinary folk who were wowed. In early 2009, some pretty notable professional athletes were spotted wearing the brothers' products. The first was USC quarterback Mark Sanchez, who actually knew Josh from high school and was happy to try out his boy's product. After tearing up the field in his sophomore and junior years, all of his teammates and his coach, Pete Carroll, followed suit in wearing a Power Balance. Then, Georgia's stud QB Matthew Stafford hopped on the trend too, wearing a bracelet during his college years and at the NFL Combine. And in a massive stroke of luck, Mark and Matthew both went first round in the NFL draft, which only meant way more screen time and eyeballs for Troy and Josh's company. From that point on, the growth of the duo's business was astronomical. Thanks to more athletes like Steve Nash and Shaq hopping on the Power Balance bandwagon, and thousands of dorks watching these athletes who thought they could perform at their level if they wore a silly piece of rubber, the brothers' company exploded. By the end of 2009, Power Balance did $5.6 million in revenue, a nearly 2,900% increase from the year prior. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could so many people, not to mention top-tier athletes, fall for this crap? I mean, Troy and Josh literally had zero scientific evidence that their product actually made you more athletic, yet no one seemed to doubt them. Well, actually, there were a few people out there that did. And thankfully, they were in the right profession to scientifically put the brothers' bands to the test. One doubter was Dr. Gareth Irwin, who was the head of biomechanics at the University of Wales Institute. He carried out a simple test with 10 randomly selected athletes who were asked to perform 4 simple exercises twice through, once with the power balance bracelet and once with the dummy bracelet while blindfolded. And as a surprise to no one, Dr. Irwin found that there was no statistical or athletic difference in their exercise performance between wearing the dummy band and wearing the power balance. Another study was done by the Independent Investigations Group, which researched even further into the claims that power balance could increase strength, balance, and flexibility. For their test, they gathered 16 athletes, one of whom was a former Olympian, and put them through an obstacle course, including a balance beam section and a section requiring them to carry weight. All the athletes ran the course 4 times through, once with the power balance and thrice with the sham balance. Each bracelet was taped over to remove bias, and sure enough, their times for the obstacle course weren't better with the power balance bracelet. IIG also tested the athletes on those horrific middle school flexibility things to see if they had more reach with the power balance, and yet again, their results showed the bracelet did absolutely nothing. Now, these results wouldn't be as shocking if Troy and Josh just admitted that their product played into the placebo effect, or maybe they were supposed to be worn because they looked cool, but that wasn't the case at all. If you go back and look at their FAQ page from 2007 through 2009, you can clearly see that the brothers' claims about power balance were full of lies. Not only did they say that people wearing the bracelet noticed an immediate increase in range of motion and balance, but they also said that it increased loads of other things like power, stamina, recovery time, and focus. They also noted that the bracelets reduced pain, stress, injuries, fatigue, and even motion sickness. These claims, and many more, made it clear that the brothers fully believed that their magical medicinal bands actually did something for your body. Well, I guess at least until those studies came out. In 2010, when those research articles were starting to gain some attention online, the Power Balance website was updated to remove any sort of nonsense about the product giving you more athletic ability. In its place were statements like, "The founders of Power Balance have always believed in the benefits of various holistic practices and Eastern philosophies, and set out to develop a product to more easily and affordably embody these beliefs." The page was also changed to lean more on using famous athletes to promote the product instead of health claims, which was honestly a smart move. Like, really smart. Despite the research clearly showing that the power balance was just one big placebo effect, an ungodly amount of athletes continue to rep the brand. Throughout 2010, Ronaldo, Kobe, Drew Brees, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and all of these guys were seen wearing bracelets. Not to mention actors like Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, TV personalities like Ryan Seacrest and Khloe Kardashian, and football coaches Marvin Lewis and Gary Patterson hopped on the bandwagon too. Hell, even Diddy wore one. The best part out of all of this for Troy and Josh was that they didn't need to spend a lick of money on advertising. All of these famous people were doing it for them, and when other famous people saw them wearing it, they wore it too. It was this huge domino effect that transformed Power Balance into becoming the new cool piece of technology to have, kind of like how the original iPhone was made out to be. But the people that were really driving the sales at the end of the day weren't these famous people. They were ordinary folk who actually believed that the Power Balance could change their life. And despite the research proving that the bracelets did nothing, these people still believed it did. Take Barbara Macazak, for example, a 53-year-old woman who claimed that her wristband made her feel like she had just loaded a pack of batteries. I can't really even explain it. I just have this energy level that I've never had before. The only thing that's changed is I've started wearing my bracelet. Also, take Donna Red, a 66-year-old who was dealing with pain after 2 wrist surgeries. About 45 minutes into it, I'm going, wait a second. The burning pain in my arm had diminished. It was not a placebo effect for me at all. Or how about Richard Alonso, who said that the Power Balance was so effective it reduced his symptoms from chemotherapy. It stopped me from throwing up. I golf quite a bit, and I hit the ball about 40 yards farther. I take it off, and I don't golf as well. Now, as crazy as these claims are, these people probably weren't lying. Chances are, their wristbands actually did make them feel better, all thanks to the science of the placebo effect. Dr. John Haidt, who specialized in sports medicine at UC Irvine, said, "If you believe you're taking something that's going to decrease your pain, you probably are going to get a decrease in pain. Say that you have miserable knee pain and you wear this bracelet, and for whatever reason, you didn't have pain that day. Now you actually kick in this placebo effect." He concluded by saying that experts still weren't sure why this happened, out and why it could work so well. But one thing's for sure, the placebo effect worked really well for the duo. By 2010, Power Balance bracelets were on everyone's wrist, from Pillsbury Doughboys to all-star athletes. The huge craze led to the company reaching over 2.5 million units sold, equating to roughly 35 million in sales, and the brothers couldn't have been happier. Their team had grown to 40 employees in a 7,000 square foot warehouse. CNBC announced the brand as the 2010 Sports Product of the Year, and they were turning a nice profit for themselves. Hell, they even had the money to buy naming rights to the Los Angeles Kings in Sacramento Kings Stadium. But most remarkably, all of this happened without any scientific evidence that the wristbands actually did anything, and no one seemed to care at all. Well, at least in the United States. You see, Power Balance was huge in the US, but it was even bigger overseas. As a matter of fact, 72% of the company's revenue was from places beyond the United States, such as Spain, Italy, Australia, Asia, and more. So, with more customers being in these places, more people were exposed to the brand there and the claims that Power Balance made. And simply put, they were way less accepting of the company's bullshit. Their local advertising made wildly inaccurate statements, like saying that the wristbands contributed up to a 500% increase in strength, power, and flexibility, among other things, and people were rightfully upset that they didn't see those results. Actually, so many people were upset that entire governments got involved, and the lawsuits weren't pretty. It all started in Spain, where in November of 2010, the Ministry of Health fined the company $20,000 for false advertising. Next was in Italy, where Italian authorities and the company's own distributor, which is fucking hilarious, fined the company a combined $529,000 for deceptive marketing practices. However, this wasn't even close to the worst of it. In December of 2010, Australia got involved with the sole objective of laying the hammer down on Power Balance. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission issued an official statement claiming that the company engaged in misleading and deceptive conduct that breached a law called the Trade Practices Act of 1974. Specifically, Power Balance Australia made erroneous claims that their product had special performance technology and that their wristbands would improve the user's balance, strength, and flexibility, all of which was misleading advertising that violated the act. This was the moment that Power Balance was finally caught. I mean, they had gone years with this very suspect advertising and making insane claims that their pieces of rubber actually changed your body with no repercussions. But now they were backed into a corner by the Australian government, who eventually forced them to finally come clean. Australia made Power Balance issue a statement on its Australian website saying, "In our advertising, we stated that Power Balance wristbands improved your strength, balance, and flexibility. We admit that there is no credible scientific evidence that supports our claims, and therefore, we engaged in misleading conduct in breach of Section 52 of the Trade Practices Act of 1974. And in addition to the statement, Power Balance was also required to run a series of advertisements in Australian media saying more or less the same thing, and that they would give full refunds to anyone who wanted one. At this point, Power Balance was screwed overseas. They actually had to declare bankruptcy in Australia as a result of the numerous lawsuits and refunds they gave out. But this didn't mean everything was going great back in the States. Between the horrific publicity and the enormous amounts of money they had just lost, Power Balance was struggling big time. And while the brothers continued to stand behind their product and attempt to convince the public that they did no wrongdoing, it was clear that the downfall of Power Balance was set in motion. By early 2011, fewer and fewer people bought the bracelets. A-list celebrities and athletes realized that the wristbands were gibberish and stopped wearing them too. The US even took a page out of Australia's book and organized a $57 million lawsuit against them, once again for fraud and false advertising. After the dust was settled around November of 2011, Josh and Troy filed for bankruptcy with $50 million in debt and owed exorbitant amounts of money to the LA Kings, Sacramento Kings, and athletes who endorsed the product. But shockingly, the brothers still run Power Balance today, thanks to them restructuring the company, somehow attracting investors, among other things. But one thing's for sure, Power Balance will always be known as one of the most infamous sports products to ever exist, and quite frankly, deserved its downfall.